Writing is such an important part of our lives as INFJs. It's truly life changing in so many ways, from problem solving to communication to healing from your past and planning your future. I really want to help you learn more about writing and to dig deeper into how it can help you. So, I've created 8 additional episodes of The Quiet Ones that you can access for free at infjwoman.com/season 5 extras. These episodes will talk you through how to understand yourself better through writing, how to organize your life, how to solve your problems with writing, improving your communication skills, and getting past all of your writing blocks. Get access now at infjwoman.com/season 5 extras. The most common question I get about writing is, how do I get started? Starting is by far the hardest part. But once you have a writing practice established, it's a lot easier to just sit down and write when you want to. Today on the podcast, we're talking about how to establish a writing practice. I'm giving you 10 tips and tricks that helped me, and I know they will help you too. I believe the biggest problem in the world is that people don't understand themselves enough. This show is designed to help you understand your INFJ personality, heal from your past, and create a life that you love. I'm Sarah Kuhn, and this is the Quiet Ones podcast. Most people who want to write aren't born with the ability to just sit down and start writing. That is a myth. Most people have to work at it. They have to practice and practice some more. That doesn't mean that you're not meant to be a writer. It just means that you have to set yourself up for success. It's a process of learning and growing. There are things that you can do to speed up the process a bit, and I'm going to share with you those things today. So let's dive in. The first thing is to keep a journal. Keeping a journal is a great and easy way to get started writing, and it will help you become a better writer, especially if you write in it every single day. Setting a daily writing time can help you get into a consistent habit in your writing. It can also help you push through writer's block. This type of free writing also is a great way to come up with ideas for your blog post or maybe even books. The best way to confront the blank page is to keep writing consistently every single day. Tip number 2 is to create a writing space in your home. Creating a writing space will help you train your brain to write when you are in that space. Make sure that you set up a place in your room or in your home, maybe an office or even a closet if that's all that you have. This one space that you use only for writing. It can be as simple as a chair or a small desk for your computer. You set it up with your favorite inspiration, maybe candles, treats, whatever helps you get into the right mood to write. Then make sure that you only use the space for writing. Once you establish this place, your brain will associate it with your writing practice and will turn on writing mode as soon as you sit down there. Tip number 3 is to write every day. We talked about keeping a daily journal. Writing for fun every day is also important. It will help you build your creativity and help you keep writer's block at bay. There's a reason that you want to write. Whether it's a blog or a book or something else, writing every day will help you accomplish those goals. Tip number 4 is to set realistic goals. Your dream may be to write the next Harry Potter or Twilight or the next Super Attractor or Big Magic, but as a goal, that's not great. You need a measurable and achievable goal that you can accomplish in a short period of time. And you need bigger goals that will keep you going for years. It's much easier to build the habits that will lead you to achieving your big dream if you have small goals as well. And hold yourself to that goal. When I first started my blog, I wanted to write a blog post every single day. I quickly realized that was way too much for me to handle. So I committed to writing one blog post a week. 700 to 1,000 words every 7 days was achievable for me. I suggest that you do the same, whether you have a blog or not. Start by writing one blog post a week. Once you've held yourself to that goal for a while, then you can move on to a bigger goal. Tip number 5 is to invite inspiration. I'll bet you have go-to podcasts, blogs, websites, and other experts for many of your interests. I know I have thousands of pins on Pinterest about INFJs, self-improvement, and other things that interest me, business as well. I have podcasts that I listen to every week and books that I read when I'm feeling a certain way. I encourage you to curate the same resources list for your writing practice. Find authors you admire who host podcasts about the craft. Follow Instagram accounts that offer prompts and motivation, and sign up for newsletters that will provide writing tips and tactics, like mine. You can find a link to sign up for my newsletter at infjwoman.com/writing. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a place to put your email address in. Okay, tip number 6. Write an outline without feeling pressure to use it. There's a reason that you want to write, whether it's a book or a blog. This reason is the perfect thing to keep you going. Write an outline for a blog post that you're thinking of writing, or for a book that you're interested in writing, even if it's just a chapter of that book. For this exercise, there's no pressure to use this outline. It's just going through the practice of writing the outline to get your creativity flowing. I'm sure you'll find it's a lot easier to write when there's no pressure to use what you're writing. When you're not worried about people seeing it, you'll feel a lot more creative and a lot more free. Number 7, edit something you've set aside for a while. When I'm struggling with writing, I like to pull out something that I've written a while ago and reread it. This process helps me to remember things that I've written in the past, but also reminds me that I have a message to share and that my writing is generally better than what I assume it is. Editing old pieces gives me confidence in writing new pieces, and it also gives me ideas to build off of in the future. I'm sure it will do the same for you too. Number 8, read to learn. Writing regularly is an important part of being a writer, but reading is also equally important. Reading helps you learn new ideas and think about things differently. It helps you expand your mind and your creativity. Having an established reading practice will help you write more consistently and will help you become a more rounded writer as a whole. Tip number 9, find accountability buddies. As an INFJ, I tend to think of myself as a loner. I don't have very many friends who are interested in the hobbies that I'm interested in, especially writing. Through my blog, I've been fortunate enough to find a couple of INFJs who love writing as much as I do. One of them started a mastermind group this past summer and asked me to join. It turned out to be just the two of us, but that's worked out for a couple of reasons. She used to live in Boston, but she moved to Nashville over the summer. So this group has helped us stay connected as friends. We have video calls once a week, every week, so it gives us a chance to talk and stay connected. It also gives me the motivation I need to set weekly goals and stay accountable to those goals. Hearing about her experience motivates me to do more, and it helps me to solve some of the problems that I have with writing. My friend collected all of her stories together in a book and hired an editor all in the past 3 months. That motivated me to get my act together about writing the next book that I've been waiting to write for more than 2 years. It's time to get started. And tip number 10, join a writing workshop. Seeking out writing courses is a great way to meet fellow writers and fellow INFJs. Courses give you a step-by-step approach to the writing process from a teacher you know, like, and trust. You're able to join a group of your peers who will help motivate you and push you to keep you working on your writing and improving it over time. Plus, you might meet your new best friend in the course. I've met some of my most valuable friends through these types of courses because the people who join them are motivated and determined just like me. There's a lot of things that you can do to help get started writing and establish a regular practice. The most important thing is to keep trying until you find something that works for you. Don't give up. Most people who give up are just about to have a breakthrough that will change their lives. So don't give up. Keep going and keep trying. You'll find the thing that works for you before you know it. It's time for Ask Sarah, the portion of the show where you show up with your questions. We record this section of the show live on Instagram, which is at INFJWoman, every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Come join us and get your questions answered too. So the next question. I struggle with feeling like I'm good enough. How can I be a writer if I don't write very well? I felt this way for a long time too. I really, really hated the fact that my writing style sounds very relaxed. It doesn't sound professional or polished at all. And I hated that because I would read things that my friends write. I read books that I really loved. And I felt like I wasn't good enough. And I let that feeling hold me back for a long time. But the truth is that everybody feels that way, right? Everyone feels like they're not good enough at some point. But what I came down to is, what I realized is that everybody has a unique story to tell. We all have a message that we need to share. And it's important for you to tell your story in a way that it feels good for you, that feels comfortable for you, because other people will resonate with that. Not everybody wants to hear a really polished, professional tone of voice when they're reading. One of my favorite writers used to be Glennon Doyle, because she had this blog called Momastery, and she wrote about people who had depression. She had depression herself. And she wrote about eating disorders and about anxiety. And she wrote about it in a way that was very conversational, very relaxed. And she literally made up words. She wasn't super concerned about spelling and punctuation and like perfect sentence structure and all of these things. And then she wrote a New York Times bestselling book in the same tone of voice. And I was like, well, if she can do that and millions of people are reading it, then what's stopping me? I don't need to be perfect. I could just write however I write, and that's fine. And then something else came into play too. I feel like I have this INFJ override where I have like this massive problem with anxiety, but if there's somebody else who needs help, then my anxiety just goes completely away and I can help the other person. So when I'm writing, I focus on helping other people because that takes away most of my anxiety. And I know that even if it sounds silly and goofy and ridiculous and that, 90% of people aren't going to relate to it, well, there's 10% of people that really need help and that it could help. And 10% of 8 billion people is a lot of people, right? So if I can help, then I definitely want to help. All right, last question. Everything I write is too revealing of myself or my family members to share publicly. How can I start a blog or a business with this problem? I really felt the same way when I started too. I grew up in a house where my parents were like, don't say too much. You don't tell people about your problems. You don't tell people about the family's problems. You just sort of keep all that stuff to yourself. So when I started writing, it was kind of challenging because mostly what I wanted to talk about was depression and anxiety. And then I wanted to talk about self-love, and a lot of that comes from, or like self-love deficiency. And a lot of that comes from how you grew up, right? And so maybe my childhood wasn't perfect, because it really wasn't. It was good, but it wasn't perfect. And obviously there were things that happened that caused me to have self-love deficiency. And I wanted to explore that and talk about it. But at the same time, I wanted to respect my parents and their wishes for me not to say too much about them and our family. So it's really difficult to strike that balance. I try really hard to focus on my experience and not talk too much about other people's experience. But other people, my family members, sometimes my friends, do creep up in my blog and podcast episodes from time to time. I try to look at what helps me, right? When I'm reading about other people,
When I'm reading other people's blogs, when I'm reading their books, I look at how they tell their stories and how do they talk about the struggles that they've been through. This is one of the reasons that when I started my blog, INFJ Woman, I didn't tell my friends and family about it because I didn't want to hear their opinion. And I also wasn't sure that I wanted them to read it yet. One of the things that you can do is change the names of the people that you're talking about. And again, you can tell them, you don't have to tell them about it. They don't have to know about it. Are they going to find out about it one day? Maybe. I guess it depends. Well, it depends on a lot of things. I was worried about my parents listening to my podcast. And my mom asked me about it a couple of times because I was talking to her about it. And I even sent her the link a couple of times. And I asked her a while later if she listened to it. And she was like, yeah, it sounded really good. And I'm like, well, what part did you listen to? Because I think the episode that I sent her was one of the ones that I was kind of like, maybe I shared too much. And she said, well, I didn't really have a lot of time, but I listened to the part that had music. Like, you were talking and there was music. And I'm like, you listened to the introduction. That's what you listened to. And the introduction was like 2 minutes long. And the whole podcast episode was like over an hour. So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I guess it's better if you don't listen to it anyway. So yeah, I look at the other people that I look up to. Like I said, I liked to read Glennon Doyle's blog when she talked about depression and anxiety, which has been years ago now. Some of my other favorite authors are like Kathy Heller, Mel Robbins, Amy Porterfield on her podcast talks a lot about her struggles. So I look at how they do it, and then I find what's comfortable for me. One thing I will say, though, is make sure that your family isn't holding you back, because a lot of people will judge you, right? Or they have their own fears and their own criticism that they would never do what you're doing, right? They would never write about their struggles. They would never even talk about their struggles. And sometimes that's a generational gap, right? I've had older people tell me that you should never tell people that you have depression. You should never talk about having a mental illness because it makes you broken and messed up. And you don't want to tell people that. And to me, that feeds into the stigma, right? Just because I have depression doesn't mean that I'm broken and messed up. And I want to talk about it so that other people know that a lot of people have depression. And it doesn't make you broken and messed up. It just means that you have a struggle that a lot of people struggle with, that most people in their life will struggle with at some point. So I don't want other people's fear holding me back from talking about that, because I feel like talking about it makes the world a better place. It's going to help other people. So I don't want other people's fear to hold me back from that. So make sure that you're balancing what you want to share and how you can help with considering your family and friends their emotions, but not letting their fears hold you back. And it is complicated. It is a very delicate situation, but I'm sure that you can figure it out, that you'll find a balance there, because it's worth it. It's worth it to talk about those things. And that's generally what INFJs want to talk about. We don't want to talk about pop culture or, surface level things. We want to talk about the meaning of life. We want to talk about the deep, important, valuable things. So yeah, it's important to find that balance. All right, so one last thing that I want to say before I go. Instagram has given me the ability to have subscriptions on my account, which is different from just regular following my account. And I did a poll recently in my stories, asking what you guys want to learn about. Because I feel like just more of the same really isn't enough, especially if I'm asking you to pay $5, well, $4.99 a month. So what I came up with is like behind the scenes type of content. Because a lot of people ask me, how do you get to 75,000 followers on Instagram? How do you have a podcast? How do you run your blog? So I thought I could share behind the scenes content. And I think most people voted for Instagram, but it was really close with, I'm trying to look because I think I saved it real quick. Yeah. So 35% of people voted for behind the scenes of Instagram, but then 29% voted for all of the above, which was behind the scenes of Instagram, podcast, and my blog too. So I thought I could share behind the scenes of everything since it was so close, but maybe focus on Instagram a little bit more. So I just wanted to say, if you're thinking about subscribing, make sure that you do. There's going to be a ton of content on there, live videos, regular videos, posts. I think there's some sort of community messaging feature, which I'm not sure exactly what that is. I think it's like a group message type of thing. So we'll figure it out together. But make sure, come and join us. You can get to it by going to my page, which is at INFJ Woman on Instagram, and then there's a button that says subscribe, and it will ask you, it's $5.99 a month to subscribe. There's no commitment though. You can cancel anytime. But I hope that you will join me. There's a ton of things that I have planned to talk about and share. And if you're thinking about writing, as far as like starting a blog or a business, there's tons of stuff that I can share with you, that I'm going to share with you. You know, I've been running my blog for 4 years now, almost to the day. And I've been working in digital marketing for more than 10 years. So there's tons of things that we can talk about. And I also want to hear from you too. What do you want to see? What's the most important things for you? So we'll talk about all of that too. So, all right.
Writing is such an important part of our lives as INFJs. It's truly life-changing in so many ways, from problem solving to communication to healing from your past and planning your future. I really want to help you learn more about writing and to dig deeper into how it can help you. So I've created 8 additional episodes of The Quiet Ones that you can access for free at infjwoman.com/season5extras. These episodes will talk you through how to understand yourself better through writing, how to organize your life, how to solve your problems with writing, improving your communication skills, and getting past all of your writing blocks. Get access now at infjwoman.com/season5extras. All right, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and I will see you again next week.